Hi, this is Kelsey Blackwell with Natural Foods Merchandiser Magazine, and I'm here with Gary Hirshberg, CEO of Stonyfield Yogurt, who is here at Natural Products Expo East and gave a great speech earlier this morning. Gary, in your speech you mentioned something called the gray zone, something that consumers and manufacturers should be aware of. Could you tell me a little bit more about what you mean when you say gray zone?
Sure. All of us who are trying to make change in the world are in one zone, which I'll call the dark zone, and we want to go out into the light. We want to go over to the white side, which would be, from unsustainable practices to sustainable practices, from pesticides to not, from synthetic growth hormones or GMOs to not. The problem is, as we're building towards a more sustainable world, the world is not black or white. The world is a lot of grays, and as a business person, of course, we live in the gray. And what I was imploring my colleagues in the industry to understand is that it's not enough to wait until the solutions are perfected to go there. So for example, we're announcing at this show the conversion of our multi-pack packaging over to a plant-based package. It's not the ideal material, it's corn. Corn's a step in the right direction. Ultimately, we'd like to use agricultural waste or even algae. But for now, corn is what it is, and yet although corn isn't the right long-term solution, we get a 50% carbon reduction, actually 48% footprint reduction by stepping into the fray, by moving in that direction. And my real message is that with the kinds of problems that we're facing in the world in terms of toxins, family farmer treatment, biodiversity, air, water, and soil, we don't have the climate, we don't have the time for another 30, 40 years to wait until all the technology is ready. As business people, we need to make those small investments, step into the gray, do things that maybe are less perfect, so that with more and more volume, we can move our way along and expedite our move towards a more sustainable world.
So we know from the President's Cancer Panel, which was the report they released earlier this year, that eating organic is one of the best things you can do for your health.
Yeah.
But for a lot of consumers, buying only organic is just not feasible.
Right.
So what can we do as an industry to narrow the gap between organic food prices and conventional food prices?
Well, so let's be clear. So the President's Cancer Panel said that 42% of Americans alive right now are going to get cancer. That's up 100% from a decade ago. And you're right, there's 1,000 reasons to eat organic food. There's only one reason not to. It happens to be a very good reason, which is the price gap. It's too expensive. And I think you asked the question perfectly. Nobody's going to be able to buy everything organic, or I should say, most people aren't going to be able to buy. And you don't have to buy everything organic. The key is to look at the key, as a consumer, to look at the primary sources of toxicity. The Environmental Working Group publishes the list of top 10 fruits and vegetables that you really want to avoid chemicals in. Peaches is the top of the list, for example. Bananas is right up there. Strawberries is right up there. But as an industry, our mission has to be to find ways to keep that gap in check. Ultimately, the goal is not to make food as cheap as the subsidized garbage that's out there, because at some point it's no longer food. The goal is to get within a reasonable range. From our data, somewhere around 10% is about the premium where we could break through beyond the, in our case, 8% US share we've got to get to 10, 12, or 14. As long as we can keep our premiums under 10%. And that means we've got to be more clever in our packaging. We've got to mine our profit and loss statements for savings. For us, it means making a 48-pack that makes it affordable for kids in schools. It means attacking our carbon footprint, but also our costs in our business. It also means being more clever in our media purchases, doing things like this, frankly, guerrilla marketing, as opposed to necessarily going out there and trying to buy GRPs on television. The key here is that organic will never make it if it's just food for the elite. On the other hand, we've seen that with increased volume, when we move organics nationally from 4% to 6 or 8, we will get economies of scale, and that will help us to drive that premium down to that, I think, sacred 10%.
So our publication reaches retailers. What can their role be?
So frankly, retailers in partnership with manufacturers, with folks like me, have got to figure out a way to do the equivalent of what they're doing on the conventional side. Everyday low pricing, in-store display, the kinds of things that allow me, for example, when I partner with a large Boston area retailer, if I get enough display, I'm able to justify bringing my price down to get some new intros, to get some folks in. Ultimately, we have the same objective, which is if we can get our volumes up, then I can offer more everyday pricing that's competitive. The pricing I'm able to offer today is much better than I could 10 years ago, even though our products are better. And 10 years from now, if our volumes double, it'll still be much better. So what we need to do is we really need to partner on clever display, clever promotion, on ways of ensuring that even though organic is higher priced, that it isn't tucked away in the top part of the shelf. It's given some time in the mainstream. It's sort of like if we build it, they will come, and we really need to build it.
Wonderful. Well, Gary, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today.
All right, take care. Thanks.